Welcome to our Wednesday simulcast. I guess we're going to bring it to you by acrepro.com, and we thank them for the sponsorship. Big day in Purdue sports. Obviously, the hiring of Ryan Walters a couple hours ago. We had a little bit of time to have it sink in. We have yet to meet Ryan Walters. He will be available on Wednesday at 12:30 at a press conference. Going to meet the Purdue group at noon as well to Kozich. But Tom, just now that you've had a whopping 3 hours and 30 minutes to have this sink in, you've obviously talked to some people, done some media as well. Just your impressions of what Purdue has in its next football coach.
Yeah, a lot of youthful energy, right? 36 years old. Just some of the people I've reached out to that have worked with him. Just obviously positive things at this point. This was a guy who came on my radar a couple days or so ago. A head coach mentioned his name to me, and I was a little surprised, to be honest with you. And all fall long, we had heard about Ryan Walters and how he was a rising star and would one day be a head coach. So I guess the fact that he's here isn't a surprise. Maybe the fact that he's at Purdue is got to be a little bit of an eyebrow raiser, right? I mean,
yeah.
I'll be honest. I thought, listening to Mike Bobinski last Thursday, I thought we'd get a proven head coach from the offensive side of the ball. But, Mike didn't say that was going to be the case for sure.
No, that's true. That's
it's
true.
All wide open. So here we are with almost a 180 of Jeff Brom, right? In a lot of ways. So exciting times that come with an element of risk, but every hire comes with risk. And I think we're all waiting to hear, right, fellas, on a couple of things. What his staff's going to look like, and in particular, what his offense is going to look like, and who's going to push the buttons on it. So, as you said, Alan, we'll find out more tomorrow when Ryan Walters meets the press and some other, dignitaries in West Lafayette.
I'm going to get to the teetotaling Brian Neubert in 1 second. Tom, I thought in BTN you hit the nail on the head. The most important thing that this guy's Ryan Walters has to do is develop talent, right, and be able to do that. It's what it comes down to.
And, you're right. That's a big revelation. We all know that. It was always Joe Tilley used to say it's a developmental program. You're never going to get the just off the shelves or unwrap them and let them play guys. You do every once in a while, but it's rare. But again, here we go with the defensive mindset, Alan. You sent me a text earlier today about some of the other Purdue head coaching hires who came from the defensive side of the ball. Well, Jim Young in particular being very successful. Leon Burtonette not so much so as his successor, but still just a different set of eyes, a different viewpoint for this next Purdue head coach. And guys, there's a lot of balls in the air right now, right? We've talked about that on the message boards amongst ourselves on Twitter. Got to keep the roster together. Got to try to keep this recruiting class together, right? You got to build a staff, and then, of course, you got to get ready for the bowl game. And buried in that press release that the university sent out was the fact that Ryan Walters is going to hang around, right, and observe the team and build his staff. So it sounds like he's checking out his champagne ASAP, which is a good thing because he's got a lot of work to do in West Lafayette.
Yeah, you would think that has to happen, and then Joe Tiller was a defensive coordinator at Purdue. I know he was.
He was
guy as well. But Brian, you've gone through many of these searches. This one was well buttoned down, took some twists and turns. I think it would be wrong to assume that just because they hired a guy of Ryan Walters' background and experience that they didn't also look at. We know they looked at some proven head coaches for whatever reason. Information we may find out years from now of all what happened. But how now that it's sinking in for you, what's your take on this whole situation?
Well, I think that I think these jobs are about leadership. I think they're about people skills. I think they're about the ability to motivate people and get the best out of the people around you. And I think I'd have to think that's what resonated with Purdue here when they talked to Ryan Walters. I mean, we could speculate all we wanted about what Purdue's hiring criteria would be, but at the end of the day, you go and talk to people and you end up hiring the guy that you have the best feeling about. And clearly, Ryan Walters showed something in his interview that really, really made Purdue believe they have a guy here who's a rising star. I think the concept of the proven coach is a complicated one.
Yes. At Purdue, especially. Yeah.
I remember way back in the day, and this is probably a bad and dated analogy, but the Boston Red Sox traded middle reliever Larry Anderson for a prospect named Jeff Bagwell, and it's one of the worst trades ever. So you could talk about an established player versus a guy with high upside, a prospect. And, Purdue, I can only assume, met with Ryan Walters, came to the conclusion this guy is a rising star, and we have our chance to hire him now before somebody else did. And that's what they did. And, Purdue's offensive history is what it is. And I think that's a good starting point for the way we view things, but I don't think any of that stuff is really deal breakers. When you know, and I think Purdue probably met with Ryan Walters and was floored and knew this was the guy. Now, the question that then remains is, was Purdue right? Mike Babinski's history with up-and-comers is pretty solid on the basketball side. His only football hire really was Jeff Brom, so that worked out well. He's got a good track record, and I think he's earned the benefit of the doubt here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see tomorrow, Tom, when we do get to meet Ryan Walters, that personality and what that brings. You've obviously got well connected, as you both are. Talk to folks in Illinois. What do you know about him in terms of what kind of personality, and what do you think he'll try to bring to Purdue's coaching staff?
Yeah, just an effervescent personality, full of energy. A guy who seems like he's mature beyond his years, or at least from a football standpoint, especially from an acumen standpoint. Barry Odom told me a good anecdote that I shared in the story that I posted today about Ryan Walters, and competitive too.
Yeah.
Again, not a big revelation that a football coach is competitive, but Barry seemed to think he was ultra competitive. So seems like he's ready for this moment, right? And it's an exciting time for the university. Anytime you turn the page with a football coach, it's an exciting time. And also, like I said, an angst-filled time. So again, a lot of questions loom. And, like Brian said, the Babinski, Mike Berghoff, whoever else was involved, had to be pretty impressed with Ryan Walters. And in the interview process, more shall be revealed as we go, guys. As you do know, right? There's a lot of challenges next year, too, and you look at that schedule as well. So Ryan Walters is going to be jumping right into the deep end with games against Ohio State and Michigan, in addition to your Big Ten West fare of teams like Iowa and Wisconsin and Minnesota. So, and plus look at that non-conference schedule, too, with Fresno State, Syracuse, and Virginia Tech. So just a lot of work to do, and it's going to be fun to see how this roster looks when we get to spring ball, and then once we get into August, too.
Brian, excellent point. Good, maybe an overstated, but youth is the name of the game in coaching, whether it's the NFL, a lot of places too. I mean, I can't name, of course, that's maybe a me problem. I can't name 80% of the coaches of the NFL because all these young guys that I hadn't heard of. So this is how much do you value that youth? I mean, Purdue hired I know basketball is different, hired a very young Matt Painter a long time ago, different situation. But there is something to be said for guys that are young, have energy, and maybe have a vision of today's world. I mean, we're all three of us are older than 37 years old, right? Or 36. It is a new world for coaching. It's a new world in college sports, and maybe that young person really fits that well.
Energy is the single most under-discussed characteristic that you can find in a coach, you could find in a player, you can find in a stockbroker, whatever the profession might be. A
writer for goldenblack.com, but yeah, go ahead. Yeah, all three.
You say that as I'm sitting here.
No.
Looking like I just got exhumed. I think energy is infectious. I think it goes both ways. I think if somebody provides energy, other people respond with energy. I think if people drain energy, it does the same thing to people. And this hire would seem like a big time plus energy sort of hire. I think energetic and enthusiastic coaches, as Ryan Walters certainly seems to be, are more likely to get the most out of people. I think people respond to them different. That's players, that's recruits, that's fellow staff members. I think you're much more likely to be somebody people want to give great effort for. And I think that's got to be a big part of this. There's also something to be said for youth right now too, because that energy, but also that all the newness around this right now, like, the transfer portal is just fundamentally changing the job of college football coach. And maybe now is the perfect time to hire somebody without head coaching experience, because they're not used to doing it this way or that way. That's an obsolete way of doing things. So the ability to connect with people right away, I think matters even more right now too, because if you're recruiting 8 starters in 2 weeks, which could be the new reality for a lot of college football coaches here nowadays.
Yeah, no doubt.
In December, I think that's a big deal. I just think the more energy, the more enthusiasm you have, I think that's a big deal. I think that can be kind of a transformative element.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. All right, Tom, when you have the mic tomorrow and the first question you're going to ask, and you might be the guy that's going to make history tomorrow, may be able to ask that first question. What are you going to ask Ryan Walters in terms of, is it going to be about his staff? What I know you haven't had 24 hours to ponder this, but what are you going to ask him? What's that first question?
So as big as Neil Armstrong's first step.
It is.
First, let me say real quick to your points. I think that's great. The observations you make about the trend toward young, unproven coaches at both levels, the NFL and college. Look at the coach of the Vikings and the Dolphins, in particular, Sean McVay, Cliff Kingsbury a few years ago with the Cardinals. On and on, it's gone with the movement toward not recycling old guys, but bringing this young blood. College, we've seen it at Oregon with Dan Lanning. Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State, and there's others that have been that schools that are turning these coaches of this ilk too. So again, it seems to be a little bit of a trend right now. Yeah, boy, I think I got to ask about offense. What are you going to do on offense? I think we had a general idea defensively, but that's the question. I think that's the first question I want to have answered. Maybe he doesn't have to give me the name of a coordinator. But is it still going to be a quarterback-centric offense, or what are his plans to do to move the ball offensively for Purdue?
Yeah, I think that is the $64,000 question. We talk also, and we'll end this because you guys both have things to do, and we'll be back probably tomorrow night after we hear from Ryan Walters. But you look at go ahead.
Let me add something to that. You mentioned all those young coaches in the NFL. It all started with Sean McVay, and pretty much for a while there, anybody who'd been in the same room with Sean McVay at any point in their life was getting interviews for head coaching jobs. It's because of offense. It's because Sean McVay was an offensive innovator, and I think everyone's looking at the game of football very differently nowadays, especially from an offensive perspective. And the old way is not the current way anymore. And I think, when you're at Purdue, you really need something to set yourself apart from everybody else.
Yeah.
Right. At Purdue, it's quarterbacks. It has always been quarterbacks. When Purdue has been good in football, it's been good on offense. And you just can't turn your back on that history. Mm-hmm. Now, if you want to play good defense, great. But it's going to be really hard to do the whole complementary football thing where you're playing really good defense, but you're also just trying to kind of sit on the ball and win 16-13 the way Illinois did. So they're going to have some.
Good point. Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a big deal.
No question. Well, and then that was what I was going to ask. The number one thing that Jeff Brom did in 6 years was what? He brought fans back, made it interesting, fans back. And
what brings fans back?
Right. It's got to be
Rondell Moore, not weak side linebackers.
Correct. And we're not presuming that Ryan Walters, I would guess that Ryan Walters gets that, and we'll have a way to do it. But that's what's going to be fascinating, Tom, is Who will that be? We don't know. There's a lot of talk about people that Purdue fans would like to see in certain positions, but that has nothing to do with what Ryan Walters going to do. And I think Mike Babinski actually made it clear in the press conference a week ago. Hey, this is what I'm paid to do. Whether he was blown away in the press conference, apparently, in the interviews, that was obvious because he hired the guy. But you know what? Just because we think or that it should be a certain way, it's clear they're going to need to score the football, as they say, and be good.
No one says that.
I know. Well, Matt Painter would say it if he was talking, because I can't see him score the basketball either. But Purdue will have to score touchdowns, and that will be a big part of it as well. All right, parting thoughts, Tom. Anything else that comes to before you make the trek to the coast?
Yeah, people want to win. I think winning sells tickets, but yeah, Purdue fans are used to having an excitement, the adrenaline rush of a prolific offense. I had a former player tell me yesterday, Purdue's known for two things: astronauts and quarterbacks.
Yeah,
and, I always think in life it's important to embrace who you are and accentuate that and build off it. You have to have an identity, whatever it is. And Alan, you're familiar with the elevator pitch, right?
Yeah.
If you're the Purdue coach, what's your elevator pitch? If you got 15 seconds to sell what you do as a program, you always have to keep that in mind. Can you do it in that little period of time? So we know what Purdue's elevator pitch had been under Jeff Brom and many other coaches. What will be Ryan Walters' elevator pitch moving forward to recruits and the fans and whatnot? So again, boy, you guys have done this a long time at Purdue. You've seen a lot of head coaches come and go. I mean, I know we got to wrap this up, but I mean, on the intriguing scale, this one's got to be as intriguing as any. You guys
way up there. Yeah, no doubt. We like intrigue at Golden Black, right? So, but surprising, and we'll get into whether we'll never find out all what went on in the search. We do know, as we reported throughout the week, about folks that they kicked the tires with. We don't know how that all came out, but like you said, Brian, and you've got sources that are pretty close to Mike Babinski as well, that said that this had to have been, they weren't going to just make a default hire. This is somebody that they had to be charged with. Yes, time was of the essence, but they think they got their guy in Ryan Walters.
Hey, real quick, guys, what do you think he's going to make? It's a 5-year deal.
4 a year.
Yeah, 3.5 to 4, I would guess. Which is more than I'm making, but that's good. Yeah, yeah. No, wait.
Less than I'm making.
I know. We're paying you way too much.
PJ Fleck's new deal was for about $6 million.
Yeah, I would guess. I'm going to guess in at three, closer to 3.5 myself. But
he was, he's making $1 million at Illinois.
Yeah. So
I'm owed a final thought.
Yes, you are. Give it to us, please.
Fire away.
So, I see a lot of folks out there kind of using Mike Babinski's word against him about the whole next level thing. You have to understand, first of all, at these press conferences, athletic directors are not just talking to the fans and media. They are talking directly to their pool of candidates, and they have to look absolutely positively committed to football.
Right.
You're always going to say stuff like that. Second, the guy with the highest upside also has the highest next level potential. So if you go out there and you hire, I don't even want to throw names out there because I don't want people to think Purdue almost hired him. But if you go out there and hire a guy who was winning 8 games or whatever in the Big 12 or something like that a few years in a row, has he shown you the sort of upside that you're trying to reach for here? There is risk involved in this too, because you don't pay your medical bills with lottery tickets. You need to be solid to, you need to run a good business. But if you see greatness in a guy, and greatness isn't hard to find. I mean, it's oftentimes you know it when you see it. And maybe Purdue saw that in Ryan Walters, and the upside that they saw in him was kind of dwarfed the easy hires that would have come with hiring Gus Malzahn, whoever it might be, whatever run-of-the-mill
Bill O'Brien
recycling bin sort of guy. somebody who just got fired by somebody else and is on the back end, or at least at halftime of their careers. That's not next level stuff. That's easy hire stuff.
That's a good point. Mm-hmm.
The hard hire to make is the one that is the path of least resistance. Hold on. What did I just say?
No, path of most yeah. I got it too, though. You're right.
I've got the runs of flu from Nebraska, so you're gonna have to you're gonna have to pardon me here. The runs of strain of COVID.
I agree. I think that's a good. Go ahead, Tom. I'm sorry.
I mean, he's got runs of fever. We got to get him to the emergency room.
No, and I buy the fact. I'm not drinking Kool-Aid here. I do buy this wasn't an easy. This was not the easy choice.
No.
By no means. I mean, and you just look at our message boards in the first hour of the hire, and not that means, but that's a visceral reaction by knuckleheads. But my point is, it wasn't the easy hire. They didn't take the easy path.
Well,
and we'll see if it works out.
And another next X factor is, what's the assistant coach salary pool going to look like?
Well, it might be pretty good.
It should be, but again, the staff, the construction of the staff, I think is something we're all eager to see.
Going to be huge and going to be a storyline.
Yeah, sure will. Yeah. Maybe we'll get some. I don't know. I doubt if he's going to lay things out for us on Wednesday, but maybe we'll get some hints on a few big hires. I don't know. Maybe not. I'm just guessing. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. We're done for this one, guys. Thanks so much. We want to thank acrepro.com, 765-587-3185. If you just got done with this podcast and you need some local land expert use, call our friends at AcrePro. We appreciate that too.
Maybe Ryan Walters wants to buy a farm.
That he may be able to afford one here shortly. That's a bad metaphor, isn't it? Buying the farm here. But all right, guys, thanks so much, and we'll probably be back tomorrow night, Wednesday night, with a little bit of a reaction.
Oh, that didn't even dawn on me when I said it. That was
I know
that was a terrible thing for me to say.
You got too much tea in the system. We'll look forward to seeing. What's a good thing about this for us? We all at least get to be in the same room tomorrow when we hear from Ryan Walters for the first time. So, all right, we'll see you tomorrow, and then got basketball coverage at the end of the week. Purdue will be taking on Davidson. Brian will be 100% past his cold and whatever he's dealing with, his virus. Hopefully by then. So, thanks all. We'll see you in later this week. And it always will be interesting. Take care, everybody.